Welcome to the training webinar for this week. I'm Dale Franks, and this week we are continuing our Advanced Design Concepts series, where we're going through best practices for all of the different process director objects that you would normally use in an application. And today we're going to start off with the email template. Now, this may not be a full 2 hours because there is sort of an upper limit to how long you can talk about email templates without getting into the details of creating them, but there are some important best practices to remember, so let's get into it. So what we're seeing here is the basic and most fundamental email template that you can create. This is our recommendations for the minimal amount of things that you can show on an email template. As a minimum, you need to show some sort of personalization. Mention who the user is. Now, when you do this, there is a system variable that is used only for email templates to specify the user to whom the email is being sent. And that is the email_user system variable. That system variable takes each email that goes out, specifies who the recipient is going to be, and then adds their name to the email. This is not, strictly speaking, necessary in terms of personalizing an email, but we recommend it because it does make your email sound a little bit nicer. It is good to personalize the email, but just be sure that you do use the email user system variable and not current user. We try in the background, if you use current user here, we try to figure out what current user means in that context. And if we can, we'll replace it with email user, but that's not 100%. Current user is a special custom variable that really only has meaning whenever we're referring to the user who's actually using Process Director, the person who's actually seeing this on their screen. So in this context, while I am inside Process Director and I am logged in, I am the current user. But remember, what we're sending are email messages. And so with email messages, there is no current user. So we're kind of trying to help you if you use the wrong system variable, but the correct system variable to use that will never go wrong is the email user system variable. Second, there needs to be a link to the form that can be opened in task context from the email. So it can't just be any link to the form, it has to be a task context link. Again, we have a system variable, email_URL, which is the system variable that you want to use to provide a link to the form to open it in the context of the task that has prompted the email. So email URL is always the system variable that you should use to provide the URL. Now, what this is a hot link control. So in this case, it has the text click here, and then the URL property where you would normally put a URL, you just use the email URL system variable. Once again, the system knows who's being sent the email, and it knows what task the email is trying to prompt them to complete. So in the case of both email user and email URL, it knows the exact username and email or URL that they need to click to open the form in task context. Opening the form in task context is important. If I have a copy of the form, and now in this case, I actually have a current task assigned in this form. And if I just open this form, this is set to open it in task context. But most of the time when I open the form, I'm not going to see my buttons there. I'm only going to see the OK and or cancel button as appropriate. This is configured to open this task in task context. So I am seeing my buttons here, but most of the time you wouldn't see that. You would just see the OK or cancel buttons, and you wouldn't be able to complete your task. The importance of the email URL system variable is that it does open the form in task context so that you can see your task completion buttons and finish the task. The third thing that we recommend is on every email are the task instructions. Once again, task underscore instructions is the system variable that is relevant in this case, and this will provide the task instructions that are given in the process itself. So in every timeline activity, as we talked about when we talked about the timeline activities, we need to have instructions on every user activity that tells the user what to do, and we need to provide that to them in the email itself. So in my particular case, the email for this task for this particular form will actually look like this. It has my name. There we go. You've been assigned a task. Click here to view it. We'll click that in a second. And then, of course, the task instructions are down here so that I can simply click on that and it will open my form for me in task context so that I can complete my task. Now, this very basic form, in fact, I don't think I want to live here. This very basic email template that we've been looking at is fine if the only email I'm ever going to send is a task notification. But that's not the only email I'm going to send. I'm going to send at least one more email here, and that is the result notification, which is not a task notification at all. In most cases, whenever you have a process, you're going to have more than one type of email notification that you're going to need to send. So even in this very, very basic configuration of a process, and it doesn't get much more basic than this, I'm still sending two different email notifications. When I get to my result notification down here, this is the result notification that I am going to send to the timeline initiator to tell them what happened with their request, or at least to tell them that their request has been completed. So for this activity, the email template that we've looked at is not very helpful, because the only thing this email template tells us is that I have a task assigned. You know what? It probably would have been a lot easier if I just showed the email. The only thing it's telling us is that I have a task assigned. But of course, for my notification of final disposition, there are no tasks. The tasks have all been done. This is a useless email to me. There are no task instructions. There is no request. Now, I still want to give them a chance to open the form if they want to, but I need to give them some other information. For example, I need to give them, instead of the task assignment information, I need to tell them exactly what happened with their request. Was it approved or not? Has HR completed their action, whatever it might have been? I need to know that as the user. This does not help me with that. This is a nice, simple email template, but for anything other than task notifications, it's worthless. So then we have to ask ourselves, all right, well, what am I going to do to have all of these different notifications? Now, there's one way that you can do it, which we do not recommend, but I'm going to let you know that the capability exists, which is for every activity on the notifications tab, you can specify your own email template. So technically, you could have a different email template for every single activity, and you could create multiple email templates. So that is possible. There is no restriction on the system in how many email templates you want to use. So for this particular process, well, I've only got 3 notifications that are ever going to go out. I've got 2 task notifications and a result notification in this case. So I would need two different emails, and I could create two different email templates. And I could, if I wanted, go to each of these activities and specify an email template. And then, of course, on the result notification, I would just choose a different email template for this notification. We do not recommend that you do this. Apart from anything else, it's tedious and it's more work for you. And why would you want to do that? Our expectation or our recommendation is that you're going to create, where possible, a single email template that is going to contain all of the messaging that you might need to send in your process. And as a result, in the options section of the process timeline activity, we have the default email template for this timeline. Now, when a template is set as the default, then that means exactly what it says. By default, this is the email template that will be used for every activity. So what we recommend, where possible, is for you to create an email notification that looks more like this one, which has multiple sections in the email template. By the way, one thing I forgot to talk about, and I suppose I should talk about since we're here and we're seeing three of them, is this control right here that has the big envelope on it. That is your email data control. The email data control is the control that you use to specify the subject of the email. Technically, you can send an email without an email data control, but you never should. You should always have an email data control. Now, the problem with the email data control is that one and only one can ever be shown or can ever operate at any given time. So if we look at our original email up here, maybe I should open up a separate window so that I don't have to keep clicking through the content list. So this has its own email data control, and the email data control, I guess, would be the fourth thing that we recommend that you have on every email template so that you could send out the appropriate subject for your email notification. Now, the nice thing about this is that you have the ability to use system variables to customize the email notification that you send out. So in this case, it's not customized much, but it does show the request number as the form field system variable on our form. We always have a request number on a form that uniquely identifies each request. And so I've just added that system variable here. So whenever the user receives an email, they know what the request number is that they're signing or approving or denying. So when we go over to this one, which is the that's the form, sorry, that's the email notification. That's the one I want. This is a multi-message email template. Again, we each have our system variables not our system variables, our control for the email data control. And as you can see, this one is even more customized, and it may be kind of hard to read here because there is lots of stuff there. So let me open up Visual Studio Code so I can copy and paste this in a more legible and readable format. File, new text file, there we go. And we'll just paste that right there. That is the actual subject of the email that is going to go out. So we're going to provide them. Now, this is a multi-request type email. So it has several different types of requests. As you remember, when we built the form, I could have time off, I could have complaint, I could have a review dispute. And so for this particular email template, it is called HR request number. And in this particular form, the request number field is rec no. And then, so you'll get HR request number 1 or 653 or whatever it is. And then in parentheses, I've got the request type. Now the request type is a drop-down control, and drop-down controls always have two values for the selection. Well, there's actually one value, the value, but there is also the display string, which is what the user sees, especially because the value might just be 1, 2, 3, or 4. And you don't really know what that is, so you can't really show them the value if you have a different value than the display string. So you need to show them the display string, which would be time off, complaint, review, dispute, whatever it is. Well, I want to show that in the email, so I'm going to use that request type field, which is a dropdown, but I'm going to ensure by using format equals string that what the end user sees is the actual display text that appears on the form. So if it's paid time off, that's what they'll see as the first item of this parenthesis. And then I'll say from and give the submitter's name and then submit it on and then use the submission date field. So I can use these system variables to really customize the email that I receive from each of these users. Now, because I'm going to put multiple messages on a single email template, well, I first of all need to know how many messages I'm gonna send. So in the case of this particular template is set up to handle 3 different types of emails. So the first one is that our request task has been assigned. So there's our task assignment email, and we'll talk about result links in a minute. Then I've got my final disposition. So my HR request has been completed. And so I get a disposition from the HR action, but this one is a little tricky. So let's go back and look at our process timeline, see if we can parse out what these final disposition notifications are doing. So in this particular timeline, now we looked at this earlier when we were talking about the timelines, and we looked at the different types of approval and how the different types of requests are going to work and how we're going to provide different types of results for each request. And because this is a little more complex application, I'm going to have different results at different times. And I'm also going to need to send different messages because of that, especially in this manager approval task. And for the complaint request type specifically. For the request type for a complaint, which in this particular application, 3 is the value of my request type for a complaint. So I've got a complaint, and when I have a complaint, I've actually got 2 results that my department head or my department manager can select. They can select internal action to resolve the complaint internally within their department. And then they have a refer to HR action, which means, well, this is not really a complaint that I can handle in my department. It's going to have to go to HR. They're going to have to resolve it. So I'm going to send it along to them. Now, if I choose internal action as the manager, so I have resolved the complaint via internal action, HR doesn't need to get involved. Okay, the HR disposition step doesn't need to be conducted. This timeline is going to end with the manager selecting internal action and saying, I've resolved the complaint with internal action. If that happens, I have got to notify the user that the manager did something, not that HR did something. So the reason why I have 3 different notifications in this particular timeline, let's leave without making any changes there. And let's go to our email notification and look at it again. So the reason why I have 3 requests here is because I've got an HR disposition that I've got to tell the user about at the end of the HR disposition activity. And I've also got a manager disposition. So I'm going to need to send them a different email if it was the manager who resolved their complaint. So this particular message here, the third one, is only going to go to users in a case where it is a complaint and the department manager resolved the complaint internally in the department without involving HR. So I'm going to know as an end user whether my complaint had to go to HR and HR had to resolve it, or whether it just went to my manager and my manager was able to resolve it without having to refer it to HR. So I've got three different messages that I need to send out. Now, each of these messages need to contain the same sort of information. I've got my personalization. I've got my link so that I can go to my task. I do not have task instructions on here, so it looks like I missed putting the task instructions. Or actually, I think I had task instructions, but I replaced them with this. And we'll talk about this result links thing a little bit later. But now at each step in my process, I'm going to have different notifications. So let's go ahead and let's close this notification. And let's go to our advanced form. So let me cancel out of here because I don't want to make any changes. Let me go to my, goodness, please let me go. And I'm going to go to my form here. I'm going to run it and I'm going to pick a complaint. And well, I'm actually going to have to do two things here to see both emails. So I'm just going to go with a complaint and I'm going to submit it. There we go. I've got my complaint. I've submitted it. I'm in the supervisor approval activity, which I don't really care about at this particular point. But note that my task here, because it's a complaint, I'm reviewing it. I can't resolve it. I'm just going to review it, which is going to send it off to my manager. And while we wait for our manager to respond, here is my request email. And it says, Dear Dale Franks, here's a task. Click here to complete it. So I can click it. There's nothing to complete because I've already completed this task. So this is going to go nowhere because I've already got a completed task. So there we go. It's trying. Okay, there's no task to complete. So it's just going to go to the wrong place because I've already completed it. But I do have a second one here now that just came in. And this is my manager. And so now I can click here to complete the task. So I can click my email and then now I actually have a task. So it's going to open the form and it's going to give me my two answers, internal action or refer to HR. So if I click internal action, it's not going to work. And the reason it's not going to work is because if I'm going to complete this task, without referring it to HR, if I'm going to try to finish it here, I've got to write down in approver comments what it is that I've done. And so I'm going to just throw some gibberish in here. And now I'm going to hit internal action. And my process timeline is now complete. I have done all of the things. And as an end user, as soon as this email comes in, we'll open it up. It will tell me what my manager did to resolve it. There we go. Finally popped into my email inbox. And here we go. Dear Dale Franks, your HR request has been completed. Your department manager resolved this issue with the disposition. And then here's the gibberish that I typed in. So this email tells me that my request was done by the department manager, and this is what the department manager gave as the resolution for this request. So I'm receiving useful information in my final notification. Now, obviously, if this is going to go to HR, and I guess we'll have to do another one real quick. Oh, I forgot to point out. Here is the title of my email. HR request number HR 25-002, complaint from Dale Franks, submitted on 6/12/2025. So I've got a great subject here that is searchable, that gives me all of the information that I need to know about what it is that I am going to be approving when I receive this email notification. So I've got a very useful subject for my email based on the system variables that we looked at a few minutes ago in my email template. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and do another email notification. And for this one, it doesn't matter what we do, but we're going to do a complaint just to keep it consistent. And it's not the email notification I want, it's the form I want, because we're going to run this. And again, we're going to do another complaint. And again, we're just going to put in some gibberish there, and we're going to go ahead and submit it. And this is the supervisor approval, as we can see up here at the very top. And we have our instructions there, which are also customized in this case with the request number. But I am going to say I've reviewed it now. Now it's going to go to the manager. And this time, my manager is not going to be able to resolve it internally. He's going to have to refer that to HR. So I'm going to kick it upstairs to HR. And now we're in the HR. I'm sorry. My phone isn't ringing, but my Apple Watch is. In any event, we're going to boot this up to HR. So now we're in the HR. Human resource action is in process, and HR can complete the disposition. Again, HR, if they're going to do anything, which is always just going to be whatever their disposition is, they're going to have to give me their disposition. So it's not going to let me submit this form until I type in exactly what HR has done. And now I can do HR disposition complete. My task is now complete. My timeline is now complete. And I have the task assignment for HR. I'm waiting for so here's my HR task assignment. An HR request task has been assigned to you. Again, we're going to have to talk about this or seeing at the bottom a little bit later. But there we go. There is my final notification that is sent to me. And so here it says your HR request has been completed. It tells me that the HR disposition was, and then it tells me, what gibberish HR threw in there for that disposition. So I am all good to go on those emails. So those are the two different types of notifications I'm sending, and thus the reason why I have 3 different notifications in my request. Now, let's talk about how we're going to configure this email to send those 3 different requests. And we're going to have to configure the email, and we're also going to have to configure the process timeline as well. So let's talk about the configuration. First of all, I do want you to notice something, and I probably should have mentioned this earlier, and I didn't. I forgot, but I need to mention it right now. And that is, if you look up at the top, and this is true in both of these emails. Now, in the other email, I did have some color up at the top. So I made it a little bit fancier here with this blue bar at the top with email notification in white, and that is fine. There is some customization that you can do with your emails in terms of text and text colors, background colors, and stuff like that. You can get away with it. But notice what I don't have here, but that I do have on my form, which is a logo. So my email kind of matches my form, the sort of the visual language that I want all my forms to have. So I do have my blue bar at the top with form title. And I suppose to make it consistent, what I should have is the white BP Logix logo there with this dark blue background and this table cell. But it doesn't matter on the email template because I'm not going to include that logo anyway. And the reason I'm not going to include a logo in my email template is because I know that whenever whoever receives the email gets it, there is an excellent chance that they're using Microsoft Outlook, and Microsoft Outlook will automatically block any images that are sent in the email. That's Microsoft Outlook's default behavior. The reason that default behavior exists is because bad people learned how to do bad things with email images that caused issues. And so now, by default, Outlook, and I believe Thunderbird does as well, and I think even Apple Mail at this point does it, you don't get to see images in emails. So while we would probably like to be able to brand our emails with our logos and what have you, it is to a very large degree kind of pointless. Yes, it is possible. If you are sending an email to an internal user, it is possible to, force either via policy or simply by asking to have your email users trust your domain. It's not a great idea because anyone who has access to an email server can spoof your domain, and any bad things can happen. So you really don't want to mess around too much with the default settings of your emails. And you certainly want to be careful about doing that via policy, even though your IT people can. Um, the world is what it is. So no images. When we get to these multiple messages itself, we go back to what I talked about way back, I think, and maybe as far back as week one. And that is the embedded section control and how we're going to throw them into an email. So I've got a problem in that I have, well, a problem. Here's what I need to do. I need to be able to send 3 different email messages based on where I am in the process and what has occurred in the process so that I send the appropriate notifications. So in order to do that, and because I can only really have one email data control visible and working at any given time, if you have multiple, it's actually just going to default to the very first one and it's going to ignore the rest. So you need to ensure that at each specific message, because I'm giving different messages and they're going to have different subjects, right? So your HR request is now complete. That is a completely different subject from here is the HR request task that's been assigned to you. I'm going to need to put each of my messages into their own embedded section control. So I'm going to have an embedded section for each of the email messages that I'm going to send. Now, going back to what we talked about in the first week, how am I going to format that? Well, I'm going to put the embedded section control for section 2 immediately after the end section control, the embedded section end control for my very first message. And I'm going to do this because I don't want to add that extra line break there. Adding that extra line break is actually going to add a blank line now at the top of the page. So whenever this request goes out, there's going to be an extra blank line. And if I do that here, there's going to be 2 blank lines before this message displays. I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to need to get rid of those blank lines. And now that I've placed them in there, I'm not sure I can get rid of them. So guess what? We're just going to refresh that without saving so we can bring this back to status quo ante. Now, I'm a little unhappy that this one is doing that. And I must have inadvertently thrown that in there. So I'm going to do something that, unless you really know what you're doing, you probably shouldn't do. But I am going to go here and try to find that extra P control. So is that my email data? Your department manager resolved this with the disposition. So where am I here for getting rid of that? Well, okay, I'm not going to be able to do that, but there we go. That fixes it. I figured out how to do it. Shift right arrow and then just hit delete. So this is what my email should look like and what I think it looked like when I very first opened this, so that all of my embedded section controls are jammed together. Now again, because I can only show one of these at a time, I have got to come up with some sort of mutually exclusive visibility conditions so that whenever this email template is called and it is prompted, that I only show one of these messages, which is the message that I need at that particular time. That is going to require me to make a couple of changes to my form controls tab. Or I guess I can do it here as well in my field properties. I guess I don't have to go to the form controls tab, but it will be a little easier to see there because we can see them all at the same time, although they are small. So I'm not sure that would be as visible to you via Zoom. But if my running activity name does not contain notification, then I can only show this here, this first section here at the very top. So I guess that means we have to look at our activities and see what their names are. So I have supervisor approval, I have manager approval, I have HR action, and then I have one that says disposition notification. Since this is the only activity that says disposition notification, then that will be the only activity that that activity is unique. So since that's the only activity in my email template, so let's go back and I guess we will go to the form controls tab to look at our sections. This very first section, which is section task, the field is visible when the running activity name does not contain notification. Again, I'm not sure if you see that, so we'll open this up to make it a little more visible. Okay, great. So there's really, basically, this is going to be the most likely email to show up. It's going to show up in both of my approval tasks because those approval tasks, the activity name does not contain notification. There's another condition that I could put on here. I could say the running activity name contains approval because both of my manager approval and supervisor approval tasks contain the word approval. So I guess I could use that condition as well. So in that particular case, then it would still show the same email section whenever I had those first two notifications, my supervisor approval and my manager approval. There are, as always, multiple ways that you can skin a cat in Process Director. So you can have different conditions that do exactly the same thing. So I can use does not contain notification, and perhaps that's not a great way of doing it. I think that was the first thing that came into my mind. But I could have also said the running activity name contains approval. That would have worked as well. Now, my other two get a little more complex. So let's go to this section disposition manager, because this addresses our issue with the complaint where my process might end at different endpoints based on what the manager does. Well, I'm going to have a little more complex condition for this. Now, remember, all three of these sections that we're placing visibility conditions on, all these conditions have to be mutually exclusive because I only want one and only one section to appear at any given time on my forms. So in order to ensure that happens, I've got to do something a little bit different here. The running activity name has to contain notification. So I am sending out my final disposition notification. So whether or not I perform the HR task, I'm still going to go to that final disposition notification. And so if my running activity name contains notification, and I'm beginning to see why I said does not contain notification for the other one, because now I've got a logical set of conditions. One, what am I going to do if the running activity name does contain notification? And what am I going to do if it does not contain notification? So in that sense, I have two very related condition sets, actually three very related condition sets, all of which are based on whether or not I am in the final disposition notification activity. But that's only the first thing I have to check for, because it also has to be a request type of 3, which is a complaint, and the result of the manager approval task has to be internal action. So this is only going to be visible. So this notification is only going to be visible when the email template is generated if I'm in the final disposition notification activity, if it is a complaint, and if the manager approval task was ended with the result of internal action. So this is the one outlier I've got to account for in this process. I have a weird and very specific disposition notification that only gets sent in this particular set of circumstances. Now, of course, my HR notification is somewhat simpler than that. So for my HR notification, well, I said it was simpler. It's actually more complex. For the most part, it is simpler. It actually is simple, but I need two different conditions to do it. So the first one is I'm in my notification activity. The manager approval result contains the term HR, and the request type is 3. And the request type is other than 3, and I'm still running in the notification activity. So this is really the how most of it should work. But the existence of the ability of the manager to end my task with HR notification just makes everything a little more complex. So I've actually got two conditions under which this runs. A, if it's any request type other than 3, and I'm running the notification activity. And then I've also got, if it is a request type of 3, which is a complaint, and the manager says it goes to HR, then I've got to send out this notification. So based on where I am in the process and what happened prior to, I'm going to get this HR notification, and it's going to run in this, even though it's a more complex condition, it's going to run more generally. It's going to run for everything except for the one case where the manager resolved everything locally. So these are my 3 condition sets to make my email template only show one specific embedded section at a time. Now, this is a fair amount of upfront work. I think I would argue that it is easier than having separate email notifications that all go to different activities and all have to be configured in different activities. It just becomes way easier to make a mistake and to mess that up. I mean, just conceptually and architecturally, it is much more simple to have an email notification that contains all of the possible notifications that your process might send out. And that way I only have to, if I have to make any changes to anything, to any email notification message, then I just go to one place and I can make any change I want to any of the messages all in one place. Plus, I don't have to go to each separate activity in my process timeline and mess around with those activities. There is an additional thing that you can do inside an email for task completion. It's going to work a little bit differently if you implement them, though, however, and that is this form page or this document page that we've been inadvertently looking at back and forth ever since we started the webinar, which is task completion control. Our recommendation in most cases is that your email template enables people to, click here to open the form and complete their task via the request form. The request form is going to have all of the information that they could possibly want about the request. They can familiarize themselves with what's happening with that request, and then they can move on with their lives. However, we do provide some additional options because there are some edge cases that we have to account for. And that's where this email control completion comes in. Of the different uh, methods that we have available to us, for this particular process, the only one that would really be useful for us are the email result links. Now, the email result links, we've seen it. Let me find where's my manager? There we go. There's my manager email template, or my manager email message. Those email result links show up here at the very bottom. Now, this is a more complex process because based on the type of request, whether it's time off or a complaint or a review dispute, the supervisor and the manager are going to see different results based on the request type. And because I never know what those results are going to be, the only email completion method that I can really offer in this process is the email result links. Now, what the email result links do is that they just display on the email itself all of the possible results that they can choose to complete their activity. Now, we're going to have to generate a new one because all of these have already occurred and I've already completed all of those to get to the completion. So let's go back. I'm going to go ahead and delete all of these email notifications because I'm starting to get confused because I have email notifications coming in from here and also from my real email. So we're going to get rid of all of those email there. And we're going to go back. We're going to run our form again here. And advanced form, where is it? Right up there at the top. We're just going to run it. And once again, I'm just going to use a complaint because that's the easiest one to implement there. And I'm just going to go ahead. Well, I should put something up here. And I'm just going to go ahead and submit it so that we can see the email that I'm going to receive as a task notification for this again. Now note, I'm looking at the form here. And if I click on the link in the email, this is what it's going to open up for me, this form, so that I can review the entire request and complete it. But what the email result links enable me to do, should you use them, now we saw on the form, my one possible result is reviewed. Now, again, if we click here, we'll see our form. I don't know why it's opening an entirely new tab of Process Director here, which is a little irksome, but it does open my form and I can see that my result down here is reviewed, and that's fine, I suppose. But I can also, in the email itself, I can also click Reviewed. Now it's going to do something different because it's not going to take me to my form. What it's going to do is take me to this, at this point, extremely slowly loading task completion screen so that I can simply complete my task. But I'm going to be able to complete my task without looking at my form. Now, sometimes we'll use these email result links so that usually for more senior people, they can just go in and they can just click it right out of the email. But it does require that you be logged into Process Director, and it doesn't take you to the form. It takes you here to this tiny little form. I clicked Reviewed, and so that is going to be the result. I do have the ability to enter some comments if I want to for my reviewed, but it says, please review or approve/deny request HR 25-004 as appropriate. Click OK to complete your task with the result of reviewed. Remember, I clicked reviewed here. That is my result that I have selected from the email. And so all I have to do when this form opens up, and happily the next form will open up much faster, I can now click OK. Now, let's click OK. It's going to save my thing. It's going to take me back home where I don't particularly want to be. We'll close that tab. Okay, great. That task has been done. So what that means is that now I have my next task coming in as the department manager. And so here is my notification. And of course, because it is a complaint, I get my internal action or refer to HR as the results that appear on my email. So I can click internal action. And once again, it's going to take me here. Internal action was what I clicked. So all I need to do is click OK. Well, that's not really all I need to do, because if I just click OK without putting in my disposition, it's going to make me put in my comments, because I don't want the manager to be able to just say, I'm resolving it internally, and sort of sweep it under the rug without making any comments. They're going to have to say something. So now I can go ahead and hit OK, and that is going to complete my task and return me back to Process Director. So I do have the ability to complete the task without opening the form at all, or even looking at the form. However, I still have to be logged into Process Director. I still have to have access to the system. So we don't recommend that sort of task completion, but it is available to you. But all of these task completion links are going to take me to a different area in Process Director. As I said, because I have a complex setup, and because I have a sort of a weird set of results where different activities with different request types, I'm going to see weird or different results. This is really the only task completion method I can use. Now, it is possible for you to specify just your own task completion links that you want the user to be able to use in email. So, for example, I might provide an approve link in an email. Now, unfortunately, for both of my user activities, I may not have an approve result, so this would not be effective. Would not be effective. Well, actually, I guess it would be. I guess I could use an approve result. I guess I could do this and go back to my email. And for this task alone, for my, wait a second, that's not my email. That's the form. So for just my task notification alone, I guess I could take my result links and I could replace it with this, so that I have my just my approve link. Now, for this particular use case, I'm only going to have approve and deny for my supervisor if I put in a time off request. So I guess that's what we'll do, so that we can actually see how that works. So I've got my approve link, and only the approval link will now show up on the email. So once again, we'll go to my advanced form, we'll run it. And I guess I have to put in a paid time off here. So we'll just pick some time. So we'll just take that week off, and we'll submit it, and it'll head over to our supervisor approval activity. So now I'm in the supervisor approval activity, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to approve it via the email now, because we can. So this is a good use case. Now, this is not going to work for every type of request, because I have multiple request types, but if it's a HR request, it will work. And I could actually make more sections of my email, so that if the request type is, paid time off, then I'm going to show this email. And to approve the request, all I have to do is click it. And again, it's just going to say, okay, approve the task. Now, I have in this particular link that I showed. So I have in we need to look at the actual system variable that generates this. So for this system variable here, and let's copy it and throw it into Visual Studio Code, which apparently I closed. So let me reopen it real quick. Let's paste this in here so that we can read it. We can see what this thing is doing. Oh, great. A new version. How happy that makes me. So here is my email complete link for the approve. So here's the text, approve the request. And there was no place for us to put in comments because I put comments equals false in this particular thing that I copied out of the documentation. But I do want confirmation equals true. And of course, I need to set what the actual action is, which is approve in this case. So what this allows me to do is to show only specific result links to a user. So if somebody asks for time off, maybe it's reasonable for me to have the supervisor or manager just say, you know what, I don't need to look at this. They haven't taken time off in a while. We're fine. I already have a pretty good idea of who's taken off, and he'll be like the only person who's leaving. So I'll just go ahead and approve the request. I can approve the request without having to look at the form and scroll down and click the approve button. I can just do it right here from the email, although of course it is still going to open up. It's still going to open up that confirmation form. There is a third option for completion, and it is way more generic, and it's just the email complete URL. Again, this is not going to take me to the form. It's just going to enable me to complete my task directly. So I'm going to replace this system variable with just email complete URL, and we're going to close that and save it so that we can throw in another request here. So advanced form will run. Again, complaint doesn't require that I fill out anything else. So we're just going to throw in complaint. And again, now reviewed is my only task, or it's the only option that I have. So let's open up the email, and it is giving me a URL. So I really needed to use a hot link here rather than a system variable control because I really don't want to show people this URL. So what I really needed to do rather than the system variable control was just drop in a hot link so that I could have masked text over it, not show you the actual URL. But here we are. I did it anyway. Now, with this email complete URL, it's still going to take me over here to that completion page, but it's going to give me a drop down that show me my results. Now, in this case, that's not a great thing because while there are approve and deny results, I'm showing and hiding them at different times on the form. When I go here, it's going to show me all of these things. So again, this is not a great way of doing completion. Really, the email result links that we showed at first, that is really the only way with this kind of complex implementation that I can actually show results on the form without having to do a lot of extra configuration to make it work. But we're going to pretend that I don't see approve and deny. We're just going to select approve here and or reviewed here, and we're going to go ahead and submit it. And there we go. We're done. My task has been completed, so I can complete it from there. So I've got those three methods of doing task completion. Sometimes it's useful to be able to do this, especially for senior people, or especially in a situation where I can show a single result that I want them to have access to. That's a great thing to do sometimes, but for the most part, while this task completion control is there, and you do have to know how to do it, you have to think very carefully about the circumstances in which you want to implement task completion control. I think the optimal, especially because task completion, first of all, it still requires that you be in Process Director. It is not offline email completion. So don't get it confused with that. I'm going to have to go to Process Director, and I'm at least going to have to hit an OK button at the very least whenever I click the link, because I have to confirm my selection. But I think the most likely scenario in which you want to use email completion links is in a case where you want people to complete via email, and you only want to give them the ability to select one or two of n number of possible results. So that, I think, is a fairly common scenario for using task completion, where I'll give you the ability to approve from the email link. So you just click it, it takes you to the approve page. You don't need comments or anything else. You just hit OK, and you're done with your task. Don't have to open the form and look at it and study it. That's probably the most likely way of doing it. Outside of that, I think both the email result links and the email complete URL. The email result links shows you all of the possible results that are valid for the current activity. The email complete URL just takes you to that completion page and gives you a drop down. I think you're probably far less likely to use either of these two, but if you're going to use one, the most likely one is the email result links. The downside of the email completion links that are available to you is that it takes you, as we've seen, to that separate results form, which it's a small form and it's easy to fill out, but it is divorced from the task itself. And it doesn't really give you information about the task. It assumes that you have an assignment that you can complete without looking at anything. That's probably, well, not unheard of, it's probably relatively rare. So you need to think very carefully about whether you want to use any of these email completion methods for your email template or not. The next thing you have to think about with your email notification is exactly what information do you need to provide. If I'm going to give you like result links, I can certainly do that. And there's certainly no requirement that I force you to look at the form. But if I'm going to give you a result link, and I think I want to go back to the original email result links, so I'm going to go ahead and copy this and place it back in here where it initially was. So it's actually the result links again. Well, I need to be sure that I'm inside this text box before I do that. So there we go. I've now pasted my result links back in. I'm a happy camper. If I'm going to give you result links, then I need to tell you enough information about the request to enable you to make the decision via email. So the use of one of the result completion formulas implies that I'm going to have to give you all of the information that you need to make a decision. So what that means is I'm going to need to show you more of the information off of the form. Now, by default, I'm giving you very minimal information. I'm not telling you anything about the form. You need to click here. But if I want to do this and I want to give you these result links, then I'm going to need to provide some additional information. So great, I can add my task instructions, which is what I should have done initially, but didn't. So I can throw on a system variable control and throw in my task instructions here. And that's good. That's a recommendation that you do that for every email notification that has a task associated with it. But now I've got to give you some additional information. I think I'm going to change the text up there. So there my task instructions will appear here. Now I'm going to need to give you some other information that is going to help you make a decision about this particular request if I'm going to give you result links. So I guess, and let me go ahead and add another space there, and let me bold face that. And now some other information that I need. So request type. And that's going to need to be a system variable. And I actually wanted to put a colon there. And so I guess I'm going to need another system variable control. And I don't remember. Was it request type or rec type? I think it was rec type. I may be wrong. Now I don't remember what the form field name was for rec type. I also need a colon back here because it is a form field system variable. So rec type, and I'm going to need format equals string because I want to show, because this is a drop down, I need to show you the display text. So that should work for that. And actually, I do have that here. It is, yes, it is rec type format equals string. So I was correct. The quotes that I put around string are strictly speaking not necessary. So I don't actually need to have them there. This works just fine. And once again, I've replaced it. It probably would be simpler just to put the system variable directly on the page because it will work. I don't need a system variable control. That's just sort of my deal because I think it makes the form more pleasant to read in design view. So we've got rec type. Great. And justification. And I honestly don't remember what I called that, but since I named it justification, I'm going to assume that I called it justification. So we're going to drop another system variable control and justification, and we're not going to do anything else. I think that's enough. Get the point. I've got to give you information that tells you enough about this request. If I'm going to let you complete it from an email, then I need to give you enough information in the email as a best practice to enable you to make an informed decision about which button to click or which link to click at the bottom of the screen to complete your task. So again, I'm going to save and close here, and we're going to hope that justification was in fact the field name. So I think I am going to have to check on that because if I don't, we're not going to see any information. So let me go back to my form. Let me look at my form controls. Justification is, in fact, the name of the control. So I'm a happy camper about that. So now we will once again submit a form. And this time we are going to go with paid time off. And we're going to give a justification for asking for our time off. And we're going to pick our days and we will submit our form. And assuming that I have configured everything properly, my form will come in. No, these are all technical support tickets. There we go. Now it's finally come in. So here is my, okay. It's task instructions, not task instructions. So that's a fail. But my my other two system variables are in fact spelled correctly, and they do produce information. So I've got my information that I need. Now, as the manager, I can make the decision to approve or deny this leave simply by clicking there. I can put in any comments that I want, and I don't need to put in comments, of course, if I'm going to approve the leave. And there we go. I've now approved their leave via the approval form. So the key thing to remember, as I've got a whole bunch of different emails open now that I think I want to close, the key thing to remember is that if I'm going to use any of those completion links, then that's going to impose on me the responsibility of throwing in all of the extra information that I need. And while I'm here, I'm just going to spell task instructions correctly and save it. So it, as I was about saying, it imposes on me the responsibility of giving the user the information that they need to make that decision to complete via email. That's generally not the way that you're going to do it. The simplest method for doing it is the way that I have it set up, at least on the one section that exists on my sample here, which we'll look at as soon as that saves. The easiest way to do it, though, is to set up your email notification like this. I'm not going to give you the ability to, on a task notification, which is all this is, I'm not going to give you the ability to use email completion. I'm just going to personalize it. I'm going to give you a link to the form, which is where you're going to go to view and complete your task. I'm going to give you the task instructions, and I'm just going to throw on an email template in each section. And of course, this is was created via a template. I have a blank template stub, so it just has all the very basic stuff. That's why there's no additional configuration here. Your email templates should largely look like this at the end of, well, that's not an email template. So like this at the end of the day, so that I have all of the appropriate messaging for all of the different types of stuff that I'm going to do. I did notice that I have some extra spacing on here because I hit enter, and that's going to treat that as a paragraph mark. So here's a little trick. Hit shift enter if you don't want to have that extra line spacing in your paragraph. Shift enter just creates a break. So it just moves to a new line without ending the paragraph. If you hit enter, that ends a paragraph and it treats it like a paragraph. And in the style sheet that I'm using here, which is more or less the default style sheet, every paragraph has spaces between the other paragraphs. So since we have plenty of time, let's just go ahead and run this advanced form again. And again, it doesn't matter. We'll just go with complaint. And so there is my justification. I have to have one now because of my email template. So I'm just going to go ahead and submit my complaint. And once again, we'll wait to see for the email template. Oh, that actually came in really fast. So here we go. Here's my complaint, and I can now review it. Oops, I only fixed one. I didn't fix the other one. This is what I'm trying to go for. So let's fix that right now. So let's go to our email notification. Let's go back in there and delete. And now shift enter, and we'll save. Now, here's the nice thing whenever you make changes, whether it's an email template or a form template, once you make a change to the template itself, that change takes place automatically. So again, we're here in the supervisor approval. So I'm just going to go in here and I've clicked approve. I'm going to go ahead, or I've clicked reviewed. I'm going to go ahead and review that. It's going to move us into the next task, which is our manager approval, or it's a manager approval is the task name, even though it's a complaint. I'm not technically approving it. There we go. Now I fixed it. So there's my justification. Things make me sad. I do have an extra line in here that I would want to fix in my email. Always a good idea to test your email. Here's a great idea. Make email tests so that you can see exactly how the HTML is going to look whenever your user receives the email, so that you don't have all of these extra lines. I'm going to go ahead and close that and go back to my email. Let's see if we can't get that thing configured just right. So we'll go to our email notification. And there's my culprit. I've got that extra line there. I got an extra line space here. Well, come on. There we go. That, I'd have to look at the source HTML to confirm this, and I'm just not going to do that. We're just going to assume that this is okay, and we're going to save it. And I'm going to go, once it saves, I'm going to go back over to my email notification here, and I'm going to refer to HR to complete that task. And that is done. And so I should get one more email notification as HR. And there it is. So there's my HR notification. There we go. That, my friends, is a pretty email. And I like the cut of its jib. So we're now happy. We've got a properly configured email, gives me the information I need, and it gives me my link to dispose of it as HR. Although, optimally, what we should be doing is coming here and making our changes here so that we can see the full context of the request, and any conversations that have occurred in terms of discussions in addition to the milestones that we see here, and then I can make my decision. So that should be the optimal way of doing it, but we do have the ability, if we want to do our HR disposition complete from there, and to tell people what we're going to do and to finish our task. All right, so let us close those. And now, of course, I should have a final disposition email coming in just momentarily. There it is. And this is what I, as an end user, am going to see for the completion of my task. So at every step here, anytime anybody touches this email, they're getting their proper information. Now, the optimal email to go out would not include any of the links. I put the links in because I wanted to talk about them and to sort of give you an idea of when you might use them. But in general, you will not have those links in your email. You won't have any completion links to click below. So you're just going to have the notification to click to complete the task. Optimally, you want your users to use the email URL link to open the form, and as I just said, review the form to complete their task. So I am going to return this back to its optimal state. So that will be the email notification that will go out. We're just going to get rid of the approval links on the form. You should know they exist. There are scenarios in which they may be useful, especially if you want people to complete via email, especially if you want to just give them the specific link to like approve. And if they're not going to approve, then they don't have a link to do that in the email, and that will force them to open the form so that they can make their disposition on the form itself. So it kind of forces them to do different things for different approvals. The problem is that that's probably not going to be a great choice, even in this particular application, because both my supervisor and my manager are going to have completely different approval or completely different completion options for every task. So in this case, this is probably as good as I'm going to get it in terms of an email notification. I'm going to need them to open the form and make their dispositions. Now, if I'm going to do that, I don't really need to give them this other information, but you know what? It's not a bad idea to give that information to them in the email anyway, so that they have an idea of what it is that they're looking at just by opening up the email. Maybe that will give them all the information they need to make a decision. Then they can just open up the form and make the determination on the form. The only advantage, and it's not really an advantage, it's really just a difference that the email completion links give you, is just the ability to go to that simple form and just click OK and move on with your day without having to scroll or look at anything else. And again, I would hesitate to characterize that as an advantage. It is different, and it may in some contexts be simpler, especially for more senior users, C-suite level people. But I'm going to leave that up to you in terms of determining whether you ever actually want to use those completion links via email, because again, if they were offline so that I didn't have to open Process Director at all, and I would just click on that link and something magical happened and I got a result back into Process Director, I think that would be fine. That would be great, but that's not what it does. It requires that you log into Process Director. If you're going to have to be in Process Director anyway, and that email completion link is not an offline completion, it's difficult for me to see where the advantage is in not just having a link that they can click to just open up the form and then scroll down and click the button. I guess you're saving them the scroll down time. And in my experience, some senior level executives resent scroll down time, and so they might want it done that way. They might want to be able just to go to the completion form. But I think that's not the majority of cases that you're going to use. I think in the vast majority of cases, this sort of task notification is the recommended task notification that you use for your end users. One more thing about email templates. You're creating an email. An email is just a text message. A lot of people ask this, well, I want to put data input control. I want them to be able to fill out the form via email. That is never going to happen because that is not how email works. So all of these emails that I've gotten, while they're nice and they're well configured, and I can change, even though I didn't do it here, I can change text colors, I can change fonts. This is a text message. This is not the actual email that's being sent. This is a lie. Because what is actually happening is that there is a text message, and it is only a text message that is going through email. Now, browsers or modern email clients can use HTML text and can automatically convert it on the fly to an HTML page. So look, I have big text here and little text here and boldface text here and links here. This is all great, but none of these are input controls. This is all text. If I go and show you this, this is the email message. This is what is actually going through the email system. It is just this big hunk of text. And that is all an email message is. It's a text message. Now, because the people who make email clients are nice and they want you to be able to make your emails prettier than they otherwise might be. They convert all of this HTML into this beautiful email that we see here with all of our lovely formatting and colors and whatever else we want, except for pictures, because pictures bad and they get blocked. But this is what we're sending. Whenever you send an email to someone, they just get a text message, and that's all they get. And if they reply, they just reply with another text message. Email does not have the capability of collecting data. And if it did, what would it do with it? How would I get that email? If I could put an input box on an email, how would that information ever get back to Process Director? Email doesn't know anything about Process Director. Email doesn't know about anything other than basically Unicode text. That's all it knows. That's all email deals with. Email is purely a text messaging format. No matter how pretty it might look, at the end of the day, it's just plain text. So there aren't going to be any controls on your form. You can't have any text boxes or drop downs or anything like that. And even if you could put them on there, that data would go nowhere, because that's not how email works. Email is not a data input method. It's not built into the email system. It never has been, most likely never will be. If you want to get information in Process Director, the only way to do that is to have somebody have access to your Process Director server and log in, unless it is open to anonymous users, in which case anybody with the URL can open it. But they're going to have to open that Process Director form from a Process Director URL to do any data entry at all. So just keep in mind that all we're doing here is creating a text message to send to someone. We're not going to gather data. We're not going to show them any form controls, which also means that arrays aren't going to work in email. Arrays, by the way, are just stored, array fields are just stored as comma-separated lists. So it's just going to send a text list of items separated by commas if you try to use it. Now, that's not totally true. There is a method, and you can go and look it up on YouTube, because I've got webinars. I've got a webinar where I discussed it, although it has been a very long time since I discussed it. So it may be a good time to discuss it. Well, not now, because we're running out of time, but it is possible to take an array and to convert that array, like in a hidden section on the form, to take those array values and put them into a table, and then take the text from that table, because you can add all of the HTML for a table on the form, and then you can send that block of text. You can save it as like an HTML control, sort of, and you can just sort of save that big block of text. You can just store it in an input field, and then you can call that input field. Now that input field is going to read out all of that HTML text for that table, and it will display as a table on the email. So it requires some what the British call jiggery pokery to make things happen, but you can make that happen. And you can convert arrays as long as you do the work up front. Maybe we'll talk about that next week. It's 11:28. I just don't have time to talk about it this week. So maybe next week I'll slap together some weird little things that you can do with Process Director, and I'll include that. That conversion of arrays to an HTML table, so that you can use it in an email message. And I'll throw some. Actually, won't do anything next week, because next week is Juneteenth. By the way, we're done with this episode of the webinar. So Administrivia next week. Thursday is Juneteenth. I'm not going to be here, and I don't think you'll be here either. So we are not going to get together for another 2 weeks. So I think what I'll do in the next 2 weeks is I'll start off with that converting arrays so that we can display arrays as a table in an email. And I'll come up with some other little weird, little known, but kind of cool things that we can do in Process Director. And maybe that'll be what we talk about 2 weeks from now. But as I said, we won't talk next week. So have a great 2 weeks. Enjoy your Juneteenth holiday, and we'll see you the week after that. Until then, so long.